I would love to share with everyone a beautiful thing that happened to me on Shabbos that I feel reveals a little bit how Hashem runs the world and communicates with us, even in simple areas of life, like learning Torah on a Shabbos morning. So on Shabbos morning, I like to go to the room where I have all of my sefarim and ask Hashem to bring me to the right sefer to learn that will give for myself the best lessons that I need today and also for my children. And on this specific day, after I asked Hashem to bring me to the sefer that I should read, so ultimately the sefer that I went to was this one, which is called Tefillah. It's a sefer that I haven't had any real connection to. I haven't looked at it really ever. But for some reason, this was the sefer after I asked Hashem to show me the right sefer to read. This was the sefer that I ended up going to. It's called Tefillah, the light of davening. When I took it, again, I take very seriously that Hashem runs the world and that he communicates to us through everything. So I asked Hashem to please, put me on the right page that I should learn from. So what is the page that he brought me to? He brought me to this page, which talks about a Gemara in Brachos on the 4th page, that ultimately this Gemara says, anyone which says the prayer Tila L'David, Gimel Pamim, 3 times, B'chol Yom, in every single day, Muftach Le'Yeshu Ben Olam Haba. It's promised him, it's assured for him that he's going to be a son of the world to come. A big thing. I'm reading this to my kids because in the morning I like to learn together with my kids. Now I'm just going to give you an overview of it. You're welcome to read it as I'm giving the overview. But basically, this is what I'm explaining to my children, is that it's not for one of these 2 reasons, but instead it's for 2 reasons that this prayer specifically, when one really focuses on Ashrei 3 times a day, once in Psukei de Zimra, once after Shmona Esrei in the morning, and then one time by Mincha. So because of 2 specific reasons combined together, one will be a part of the world to come. What are those 2 reasons? Those that say Ashrei every day, they know that the Ashrei, which is talking about happy are those who dwell in Hashem's house, meaning in the house of Kedusha, that they will be happy, right? Those that really sit inside of Hashem's house, sit in their minds and in their hearts and with their bodies. They dwell within the Kedusha of Torah. They represent goodness. So the prayer that is related to that concept is one that's written as an acronym of the Aleph Beis. Avarcha es shimcha le'olam va'ed. I will bless your name forever is the beginning of the first line. B'chol yom avarchecha. Every single day I will bless you. The next line. Gadol Hashem. Great is Hashem with a gimel. The next line. Dor lidor. Yishabach masecha. Every generation will praise your actions. Talking obviously about Hashem. Hadar kivod heidecha, ve'ezuz neresech yemedu. Right? Every single one follows the Aleph Beis. There's one letter which is missing, which is the Nun. Why? Because that represents the word noiflim, people that fall. So that's included in the pasuk about with the Samech, which means Seimech Hashem l'chol hanoiflim, that Hashem supports all of those who fall. So to speak, he lifts them up. So going through the Aleph Beis, number 1, you're recognizing praises of Hashem through the holiness of the words of the Torah. So that's reason number 1. But it's not enough. Why? Because there's another Tehillim 119, which also says the praises of Hashem through the Aleph Beis in order, but with each letter of the Aleph Beis, it does it 8 times. There's 8 psukim for each one of the letters. Here it's only 1 pasuk per letter. So it couldn't be that alone. The second reason it says is because it has this beautiful pasuk, Pesach es yedecha, when Hashem, you're opening up your hand, it must be l'chol chayratzei. You're satiating all living things, which is representative of, it's meant to be something that you cleave your mind to. You think about how Hashem is constantly, it's in the present tense, how Hashem is opening up his hand and satiating all living things currently, in this moment and in every moment, which is his Bainanus. It's meant to be a time to contemplate the Hashgachah Pratis, how every single detail of life is being given to us by Hashem, is being given to the world by Hashem, is given to the universe by Hashem, and everything beyond the universe by Hashem. But if you want to say that that's the only reason why saying Ashrei 3 times makes you Ben Olam Haba, a child of the world to come, it's not enough. Because in Hallel, in the great Hallel, it says, Noisen lechem l'chol basar, that Hashem gives food to all flesh. So instead, don't say one just because it's in the Aleph Beis, which represents the holiness of the letters of the Torah that praise Hashem. And don't just say Pesach Esidecha because we recognize and we can contemplate and immerse ourselves in the idea that every single moment the world is being brought into existence and every detail within it is specific and beautiful and coming from Hashem. But say that it's both things together. And because one involves themselves in both of those things every single day, 3 times a day, so because of that, one becomes the son of the world to come. It changes your entire mindset. So when I read this, I said to my kids, I was like, oh, I know such a beautiful story about Pesach Yisidechel must be l'chol chayratzayin, that Hashem opens up his hands and satiates all who need. Who satiates all living things. So I went and I found this book on my shelf, a book which is a biography of the Ben Ish Chai. And I said to them, I knew a beautiful story about Pesach Yisidechel. Let me find it, please. So the same way, I open up the sefer trying to find this story right here. But what do I end up actually flipping to when I first open up the book? Is I flip open to this page, which is about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And I said to my kids, I can't believe it. Guys, check this out. Check out the page that I flipped to, the only page in the entire book, which is a song that the Ben Ish Chai wrote, just like the Ashrei, Aleph Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, etc., all the way through the Aleph Beis, in order of the Aleph Beis, saying praises of the Ben Ish Chai, using all of the letters that we find in Hebrew. Ish, Baruch, Gibor. It's a famous Sephardi song, which is sang on Lag BaOmer. So we opened this up, and my kids looked at me, and I looked at them, and I said, what incredible Hashgachah Pratis. The thing that we learned in this book, Ora Tefillah, the light of Tefillah, began not with Pesach Esidecha, but it began with the idea that the Ashrei goes and praises Hashem using all the letters of the Torah in order. And here, when I open up looking for a different story, I end up running into a tzaddik that wrote a beautiful, beautiful set of praises to the Rashbi, to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in that same acronym order. It was beautiful. So I said, okay, guys, but we still got to find the story. So I continued to look through the book, and I found it. And here it was. It says, Rabbeinu was a dazzling speaker, not only in the synagogue, but even in the privacy of his home. Once Chacham Ezra Kohen, a student of the Ben Ish Chai, went into Rabbeinu's room to speak with him. But as soon as he walked in, Rabbeinu said to him, before you say whatever you're going to say, first say one verse and repeat it constantly and contemplate it. Because tonight is the 7th of Elul, the anniversary of the passing of my father and teacher, Rabbi Eliyahu. The verse Rabbeinu wanted him to repeat was Pesach Esidecha must be l'chol chayratzayin. You open your hand and satisfy the desires of all living creatures. Rabbeinu then spoke for 4 hours without stopping about this verse, sharing with Chacham Ezra 120 different interpretations. The more he spoke, the more passionate and emotional he became. Chacham Ezra later described how the words flowed naturally and effortlessly from the great sage's lips, like water flowing from a wellspring. It was such a beautiful moment. And, if it would have went the way that I would have expected it, All right, so we learned something cool about Ashrei, and that would be the end of it. But when one opens themselves up to Hashem, and one opens to oneself up to the idea that Hashem is communicating to us all the time, and the world is the Aleph Beis, it is Hashem communicating to us directly if we open our eyes up to it. So then we do a little more research. We continue to share. And by divine providence, right, that Hashem opens up his hands and satiates living beings. So in my attempt to look for this story, which was still something I should learn with my kids, and it was a part of understanding what we learned in Orah Tefillah, that it's such a deep pasuk, but it needs to be combined with the idea of the Aleph Beis, the Kedusha of the Torah through the Aleph Beis. And so Hashem directed us first to see a big tzaddik that used the same idea in a praise to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and only afterwards we went to the pasuk of Pesach Hasidachol Maspilachol Chayratzayin.